The year was 1872, and the vast Atlantic Ocean held many secrets. But one mystery has baffled sailors and historians for generations: the Mary Celeste. An American brigantine found drifting aimlessly on the open sea, her sails full and her course steady. But there was something dreadfully wrong. The ship was empty, not a soul on board. Personal belongings were untouched, meals half-eaten, the cargo completely intact, and yet the crew gone, as if they had vanished into thin air. How could an experienced captain, his family, and a crew of seasoned sailors disappear without a trace? What horrors, what strange force compelled them to abandon their ship in perfect sailing condition? Today, we dive deep into the unsolved enigma of the Mary Celeste, exploring her fateful voyage that began like any other, yet ended in one of the greatest maritime mysteries of all time. Celeste's final voyage. The Mary Celeste, a ship with a name steeped in maritime mystery. Originally born as the Amazon, this 282-ton brigantine had sailed many seas, changed many hands, but no one could have predicted the sinister fate that awaited her. By the fall of 1872, she had a new name, a new crew, and was under the command of Captain Benjamin Spooner Briggs, a man known for his discipline and unwavering leadership. But this voyage was unlike any other, for it wasn't just sailors aboard this ship. Captain Briggs had brought his beloved wife, Sarah Elizabeth, and their 2-year-old daughter, Sophia Matilda, along for the perilous journey across the Atlantic. The crew of the Mary Celeste was hand-picked, a seasoned first mate, able-bodied seaman, and a cook with years of experience on the high seas. November 7, 1872. The Mary Celeste set sail from New York Harbor, bound for Genoa, Italy, carrying a valuable cargo of 1,701 barrels of alcohol. The insurance on the ship was a fortune for the time, but all seemed routine. No one aboard could have imagined that they would never see the shores of Italy, or that they would disappear without a trace. The final log entry was made on November 25th, positioning the ship 100 miles west of the Azores. Fair weather, calm seas, nothing unusual, until silence fell over the ship. A silence so profound, no one would hear from them again. What happened in those final fateful days? Why did the Mary Celeste, found perfectly intact, become a ghost ship, its crew vanished without a trace? Stay with us as we journey into one of the most chilling maritime mysteries ever recorded. Discovery of the abandoned ship. One refreshing December day in 1872, the Canadian brigantine Di Grazia was en route across the Atlantic from New York to Gibraltar. The routine in that voyage was suddenly disrupted when a ship was seen forward in a quite strange manner. He immediately picked up his spyglass and identified the ship as the Mary Celeste, with which he had been quite familiar. Perplexed by such strange sailing, he ordered his ship closer in. As the Di Grazia drew nearer, an unearthly quiet fell over the scene. Nothing showed signs of life on the Mary Celeste. No movement across its deck, no answer to their hails. Now suspicious, Captain Morehouse dispatched his chief mate, Oliver Deveau, aboard with 2 crew members to search for something. Deveau and his crew cautiously boarded the Mary Celeste at approximately 1 p.m. What they discovered was deeply unsettling. The ship was in reasonably good condition. However, it was fully abandoned. The mainsail and several smaller sails were set. Others had been furled or torn away. About 3.5 feet of water sloshed in the hold, significant but not life-threatening for a vessel of this size. It was here that the mystery thickened. The ship's only lifeboat was gone, but the davits were swung out, showing that it had been deliberately launched. The main hatch was shut and closed, while the fore one was wide open. In the captain's cabin, they found everything frozen in time. Personal possessions still remained, and all the valuables were intact. Even the clock of the ship had stopped working, and curiously, the compass had been destroyed. The galley told the story of routine gone wrong, food left as it was being prepared. One of the pumps was dismantled and appeared as if people tried to repair them. There was a rope draped over the side of the vessel, trailing into the water for reasons unknown. Except for these bizarre discoveries, there was no clear evidence of foul play, fire, or damage due to severe weather. The final entry in the ship's log was dated November 25th and described fair weather and normal conditions. It gave no suggestion as to what strange events must have occurred in the days thereafter. By the time DeVoe and his men finished their initial survey, they had more questions than they did answers. The Mary Celeste had apparently been abandoned in some great rush, yet for no apparent reason. The ship was seaworthy, with ample provision stores, yet its entire crew had disappeared without a trace. This baffling scene would provide the basis for one of the most enduring mysteries in the history of the sea, fascinating an entire world for generations to come. Evidence found aboard. As the investigation of the Mary Celeste continued, the evidence on board became more intriguing. A cargo hold full of industrial alcohol, numbering 1,701 barrels from a very valuable shipment to the port of Genoa, was found. Of the total number, 9 were empty, thus showing obvious signs of leakage and pilferage. However, no clue can be obtained from here to account for the disappearance of the crew. Personal belongings of passengers and crew showed no signs of disturbance, further adding to the mystery of abandonment. The captain's cabin reflected a moment of normal shipboard life frozen in time. Mrs. Briggs's sewing machine sat mute, toys of their child were on the floor, and Captain Briggs' chronometer and sextant were missing, both tools necessary for navigation at sea. The ship's log offered tantalizing clues to the vessel's final days. The last entry was for November 25th, which put the Mary Celeste about 100 miles west of the Azores. It was fair weather and calm seas, with nothing to hint at impending trouble. Peculiar findings included the state of the ship's pumps. One of them was disassembled midway, suggesting that the crew could be trying to deal with water ingress. However, this amount of water in the hold did not evidence dramatic enough variances to abandon the ship. Also, a rope over the side of the vessel, for an unknown purpose, fueled speculations regarding a potential towing or rescue attempt. The galley had signs of recent use, with food and utensils laid out in preparation for a meal. Whatever had caused the crew to abandon ship had clearly occurred suddenly and without warning, interrupting their daily routines. Yet there was no evidence of panic or struggle on board, with no signs of violence or foul play. Most puzzling, perhaps, was the missing lifeboat. The fact that the davits were positioned suggested a deliberate launch, but this implied a premeditated departure rather than a desperate one. Why would such an experienced captain as Briggs abandon a sound vessel for the hazards of a small boat in the open ocean? These strange findings, and what they could have entailed, have spawned countless theories over the years. Whether the burst barrels of alcohol were indicative of an explosion that scared the wits out of the crew, whether the dismantled pump pointed to a problem critical but escaped later observers, and whether the overboard hanging rope was a clue to some unknown event. Some theories. The disappearance of the crew on the Mary Celeste has spawned countless theories through the years, ranging from the plausible to the fantastic. Every attempt to solve this enigmatic riddle of the sea has added to the mystique of the ghost ship. Many an investigator has surmised a natural explanation. Some theorize that a sudden squall or waterspout might have swept the men overboard, comparing it with certain well-documented instances while the people were above deck. Of course, this theory is possible, but does not easily stand up against the fact that there was no storm damage to the ship. Then again, some people believe that some sort of navigational error might have made the crew believe they were in danger of running aground, and thus caused them to abandon ship too early. However, Captain Briggs was a very cautious man for whom such extreme misjudgment was out of character. Foul play theories have also spread widely. Initial suspicion fell upon piracy, but this was soon quashed due to cargo found intact and the presence of valuables still on board. Some speculate there could have been a mutiny, perhaps over wages or poor conditions. However, this again is considered unlikely, as there were no signs that the ship was in disarray and all of the crew, including the captain's family, vanished. But while paranormal hypotheses are without scientific merit, they've certainly captured the public's imagination. From sea monsters to alien abductions to interdimensional portals, countless supernatural explanations have been forwarded in attempts to explain the disappearance of its crew. Fanciful theories speak more to the mystery's grip on popular culture than to likely explanations. Scientific hypotheses have, however, provided more down-to-earth, if no less sensational, explanations. One widely advanced hypothesis assumes that fumes from the alcohol cargo may have leaked and threatened explosion or mass hallucinations. This would explain the crew's abandoning the ship, but it does not take into consideration that the cargo was virtually intact. Another scientific hypothesis is the theory of submarine seismic activity. A submarine earthquake shock may have so violently convulsed the Mary Celeste as to persuade the crew that she was breaking up, and thereby to provoke a panic-stricken flight from her, though this does not explain why they did not return when they found her still intact. The most convincing theory seems to revolve around methanol poisoning. The crew might have consumed some sort of adulterated spirits, which can certainly drive one towards erratic behavior and a failure to make good decisions. This would definitely fit with those empty barrels and could explain such a rash, illogical abandonment of a seaworthy vessel. If you have any idea what could happen to the crew, write it in the comments. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.